Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming, and welcome to Meet the Candidates. This is our Gordon County 2007 Municipal Election Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Gordon County Chamber of Commerce Community and Governmental Affairs Committee. We would like to thank each of our candidates for being here today, willing to answer questions, impromptu, and sharing their thoughts about the races that they are pursuing. At this time, I would like to thank Dwayne Bowen for being our official timekeeper for tonight's event, and then also thank and introduce Jesse Vaughn. He will serve as our moderator, and he will now come to the podium to go over all the rules for the candidates. One other thing, just so that everyone knows, we are streaming live this evening, courtesy of the City of Calhoun. So this will be televised on YouTube, as so everyone is aware. We have notified everyone in advance.
So we're on now. We're on.
We are on. You are on.
Thank you, Kathy. Just a few rules. There's actually 11, but none of them involve, being bounced out or anything like that. But we do appreciate the candidates coming tonight. And we appreciate all of you coming tonight, because you're who this is for, and we appreciate everyone that's viewing this online. First and foremost, no candidate substitutions are permitted. All of these are the actual candidates appearing in the race they're running. No candidate will be allowed to question or direct comments towards his or her opponent. You speak to me in the crowd. You don't speak to each other. A time will be called if a statement exceeds the time allotted. Each candidate will be given a 1-minute opening statement and then 3 minutes to answer each question. There may be as many as 3 or 4 questions, depending upon the moderator's discretion. Responses must be related to the questions asked, otherwise time will be called or the moderator will steer you back to the question. No questions or comments will be taken from the audience. Questions will not be provided to the candidates in advance. And I will tell you, though, that the subject matters of the questions, the vast majority of them have come from our local high school government students at Calhoun, Gordon Central, and Snorville High School, and through all their government teachers. And I'd like to thank those teachers for their efforts and our students for their initiative and their input. No posted signs will be allowed on the premises. Handouts and or tables for distribution of campaign literature will be permitted, but only from the tables reserved for the candidates. No campaigning will be allowed in the seated portion of the meeting room. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. In each race, the order of candidate responses will be determined by draw, and Mr. Barron, being the only one, you get to go first and last in your race. But the others have drawn, and we will follow that order. The moderator reserves the right to disqualify any candidate for non-compliance with these rules, and participation will be denied any candidate who is not checked in by 5:30, but everybody did. So we will begin shortly. I will ask the questions from over there, and so, like I said, direct your responses to me. And with an introduction of the candidates in their races now, for City of Calhoun City Council post number 3, we have Matt Barton, the incumbent, and George Crowley. If you guys will raise your hands, wave, show your best side, all of that. In the City of Calhoun City Council post number 4, the 3 candidates are Ray Denman, Alvin Long, and Ed Moyer, but we only have 2 that are appearing with us here tonight. Mr. Alvin Long and Mr. Ed Moyer are here with us. And then in the City of Resaca mayoral race, we have Michael Austin, Randy Barron, and Mitch Reed, but Mr. Randy Barron is the one who is here with us tonight, and we look forward to hearing from him. So if
City Council.
City Council. Okay.
Post 4. Post 3, excuse me.
We're going to give you
Well, I'll take it. Sure. I didn't realize it was available, but okay. Let me just adjust my speech real quick.
Did you say post 3?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, let's give a hand to our candidates and get under. Before we begin, I will tell the candidates, with Mr. Bowen being our timekeeper, you will have 3 minutes to respond to each question. He will hold up his hand when you have 1 minute left, and then he will hold up his hand again when you have 30 seconds left. When his alarm goes off, we'll let you finish a sentence or a thought, but don't ramble on if you can help it. But we'll begin with City of Calhoun, City Council Post 3, and by the draw earlier, Mr. George Crowley, drew number 1, so he will begin with his opening statement of 1 minute. Mr. Crowley.
All right. Good evening to everybody, and I want to join Jesse in thanking you for coming out tonight and being here, taking the time to come. I also want to thank the Chamber and the Political Action Committee for putting this all together for us. And since there are some folks who are watching as we're streaming live, thank you for watching and taking your time. Again, I'm George Crowley. I'm running for Post 3 of the Calhoun City Council. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been married for 44 years to my wife, Ann, who's sitting in about the 3rd or 4th row back through there, and with my daughter, Anna, beside her. But we have 3 children. Neil is an attorney in Baltimore, Maryland. Anna works for Calhoun City Schools, and Will, our youngest one, has a pharmacy here in Calhoun, and he's a pharmacist. I'd also like to tell you a little bit what I've done in the past that sort of maybe give you some qualifications for why I'm running again. I was on the City Council for 12 years previously, and during that time I was on the Board of Directors as an at-large member for the Georgia Municipal Association. I also served for 4 years. Is that my time? Oh.
1 minute.
I've done a few other things, but thank you.
Mr. Barton, will you go ahead with your 1 minute opening?
All right. You ready, Dwayne? Well, I'm excited about having the opportunity to serve y'all for another 4 years. I've served for the last 8 years. I was on the school board before that, and education is still a big part of my heart. I'm currently the mayor pro tem. I also are on the hospital authority board. I also served as a District 1 president for our region for Georgia Municipal Association, and that was an honor to do that as well. I'm married to Lynn Barton. We've been married for the last 24 years, and we have 2 daughters. Both of them go to the University of West Georgia. I'm a fiscally conservative. I've tried to keep taxes low. I try to keep your fees and your utility rates as low as possible. We have a lot offered in Calhoun. The education system, hospital, and other things make us a prime candidate to attract growth. Thank you.
All right. With that being the case, Mr. Crowley, the first question will go to you, and I'm going to kind of let you pick up where you just left off. What, in your experience, makes you the best candidate for this position?
As I said earlier, I was on the City Council for 12 years, and then while I was on the City Council, I served with the GMA as a member of their Board of Directors and also on their Legislative Policy Council. And what the Legislative Policy Council does is they actually set the legislative policies for cities in Georgia. Also, I was on the school board for 16 years, and during that time I was chairman of the school board for 15 of those 16 years. I've also been the chairman of the Gordon County Hospital Authority, and that was at the time the hospital moved from its old location to where it is now on Redbud Road. And I was part of that board when it was built and then later sold to the Adventist Health Systems. I've served as the chairman of the Gordon County Calhoun Chamber of Commerce. My year for that was 1999, so I guess I take credit for Y2K being successful, since I was there. Also served as the first president and the founding director of the Boys and Girls Club here in Calhoun. And I think that's most everything I've done. But anyway, I would appreciate your vote and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Same question to you, Mr. Barton.
As I said, I served for 8 years, and I'm a small business owner. And I'm out there and I see all the public, and I see when I got on was during the Great Recession. And so I saw where people struggled, and I knew to keep taxes low, but I did a lot of training. I have more training than any of the past councilmen, the mayor, of anyone ever. And I did it on purpose because I wanted to make sure to be the best steward of your money. People have a hard time. I've tried to keep your utility rates low. My number one priority is the citizens of Calhoun. I mean, I tell the employees that all the time. You're not number one. You're number two. But you are close to my heart as well. I mean, but I want to make sure that the taxpayers are able to handle what they have. But being a small business owner, I can see things. The thing in government that hurts is it takes a lot of time to get things done. And you can make decisions in a small business and see results a lot faster, and that's the frustrating thing that you have with government. Everything that you try to do takes time. I wish we could change that. Maybe one day we can, and I think with term limits would enable people to have their time, and you get on there and you try to make a difference as fast as possible, and you don't worry about trying to stay on here forever. And that's my qualifications.
Okay, now the question will go to you, Mr. Barton, and for everyone on the panel, you'll all get this question at some point, so the other three of you might want to listen up on this one as well. But what is your position concerning the SPLOST that is on November's ballot? If you oppose it, what ways would you propose to fund the projects listed in the SPLOST? If you support the SPLOST, do you ever foresee a time when our local government would not seek to renew the SPLOST? Mr. Barton.
Well, I do support the SPLOST. The SPLOST, for where we live, is just a great resource to have. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's around 60% that we get from outside sources that drive through our county. And to be able to tap into that resource, to be able to get the things that we need, as I was talking earlier with the firemen, try to get a fire truck. We paid for a fire truck. We paid for the new burn training center with SPLOST dollars. To do the stuff otherwise, we would have to increase taxes. And so by getting other people's revenues coming through, it's just a great benefit for our community to be able to use those. Right now we're working on the Peter Street project, curb and gutter and sidewalks. We're doing a roundabout. And without the SPLOST, those things are just, it's not impossible, but it's a lot more taxing to our community. So I'm in favor of the SPLOST.
Okay, Mr. Crowley.
SPLOST is an excellent way to get some of those projects done that you need to get done. I definitely am in favor of that. We'll tell you a quick story. I remember when I was on the school board, it was one of the first SPLOST for education, and there was a lot of doubt in the community about whether that was a good thing to do. And at that time, there were some folks who were definitely opposed to it. And so what we did, we got both school boards together, and we sat down with those folks and explained to them exactly where the money went, what it'd be used for, and how that was the best way to fund it. And actually, they came to support it, and I don't think we've had one that's failed since then. So I definitely believe it's the way to go. The good thing about a SPLOST, you know, you can go ahead and borrow money and then use the SPLOST dollars to pay it back, so projects don't have to wait till it's there. You can do pay as you go, but it's a wonderful way to get projects done that would normally be either delayed because you had to get the money in hand, or you know, possibly not get them done as quickly as you need to. And that's one of the things that's really important in the city business. You know, it's planning ahead and knowing what you want to do into the future is very difficult. It's a slow-moving process, and to go ahead and get things done quickly like that's a very important thing to do. So I definitely support it. Don't know that I would ever not support it. I think that was your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Crowley, and thank you for reminding us of the good old days when the city and county school boards would meet together.
Well, they did, yes.
This is a recurring question. This topic was a recurring question from students at each of our high schools, and I've tried to sort of distill it down, but the question is a little bit long, but we'll start with you, Mr. Crowley. Do you think government regulations at the state and federal level are too complex as it relates to individuals and to the cities you are running to serve? If so, what would you do to help untangle those regulations? And are there regulations in particular that you believe impact a city's ability to govern itself?
Wow, that is a long question. What I would say is that probably when you get into this business, and I'll go back again to the school board days, you know, they always said with the shekels come the shackles, and so you do have requirements that you have to do, and especially when you begin to get into the utility business, that the city is very important to the city. The regulations involved in that are tremendous. I remember when the water plan for the state was being formulated, and the reason for that was because the state was being sued by other folks. Florida was suing Georgia about the water rights, and Alabama was suing Georgia about all that, and it's very difficult to make those plans and have them on a short-term basis to do it. Do the regulations actually shackle you? I would say that probably they do, but the city, in my experience, has been the city shackles are not nearly as bad as the shackles were with our school systems. The school systems are very regulated in what they do and how they spend their money and where they spend their money, and it makes it very difficult to be very innovative in what they do. Good thing, again, with the city itself, you know, we do have some leeway. Are the regulations that get in the way? Probably so, but do they make the water clean and things like that? Probably so as well.
Thank you. Mr. Barton, you want me to repeat the question? It's kind of long.
No, I got it.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
I had to save the people here. Yeah, I really do think, I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier. It does shackle you. It maybe sometimes for good, but you can't really get in there and get things done because of it. An example of it currently, you know, the city of Calhoun has invested in Plant Vogtle 3 and 4, and that's a nuclear plant. It's a $250 million investment that the city of Calhoun has alone, but the regulations can change during the time because the hurricane that happened in Japan, well, then we had new regulations on what we had to do. And so with new regulations going on an ongoing project, that really increases the cost of what we're doing. So the cost overruns that we do are not even what we planned on. It's because the federal government and the state governments get in your way to do what you can do efficiently. So yeah, I totally agree that they get in your way.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. This will be the last question for you guys, and it is one that was very popular amongst our young people as well. What is your vision for attracting business, industry, and tourism to your city? Specifically, how would you fund any action taken by the local government? Mr. Barton, it's your turn to go first.
One of the things that I would like to do is encourage increasing our downtown activities, making to where it's a more vibrant downtown. We've been working on that, but just having walkability, more restaurants. Some of the things we get caught up on trying to get big industries to come here and get 200 jobs, which are important. But if you can figure out ways to get, you know, a business to come in here and offer 30 jobs, and you get 7 of those businesses, well, 7 of those businesses equals 210 jobs. So you can still get the number of jobs coming in for that, but you can also revitalize your downtown. Loft living's another way. We're working on a pathway system with the Gordon County, a new pathway. A lot of young people are big on having paths for running, for riding bikes, and even horseback. And you connect it with county and do it in conjunction. I mean, the other communities where my girls are at Carrollton right now, they have it's called the Beltway, and they all love it. And I have a nephew who goes there, and he would have never really liked this before, but now he's like, oh my gosh, this thing is awesome. And so they jump on that. They like to be able to stay where they are instead of having to go out of town. And it seems like where we are right now, we have to go out of town to have fun. And so that's what I would do. I mean, that's what I encourage to do.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barton. Mr. Crowley?
One of the things that I would say is that if you look at what attracts businesses and folks to a place, a lot of times it's the availability of the infrastructure to do that. And if you look at the water plan that's in place for the Coosa Valley Basin, or the Coosa Basin, where we're sitting, Calhoun and Gordon County is only one of like 5 places by the year 2050 that will have sufficient water, based on population growth and the things that are coming through here. That's going to attract a lot of folks to this place. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're going to have growth. I think the problem is how do we plan for that growth and what do we need to do to make sure it gets there, and it's time to plan for that now. And the good news is that the folks who preceded all of us on city councils and folks like that did a darn good job of making sure that the infrastructure was in place to plan for our growth. The utilities, other utilities are in place, the electrical utilities that are there. There's going to be a lot of it. How do we pay for that? As y'all know, a lot of the money that goes through, the reason our taxes are so low in the city of Calhoun at under 2 mills is because of the utilities that we have. They provide probably $6 to $7 million of the total revenues that come into our general fund. And so anyway, it's a very important part of what we do. The utilities need to be a big part of how we plan for the growth and what's to come, because that's where a lot of our income's coming from.
Thank you. We'll go to closing statements now. We will go in the reverse order of the opening statement. So, Mr. Crowley, you've got 1 minute to close.
Gosh, I'll hurry this time. I want to tell you guys that I think I've won the lottery. I was born in the United States of America, and I live in Calhoun, Georgia, and those are two good things. I want to tell you that why I'm running, I think, is more important than what might happen, you know, if I'm there. The reason that I'm running is that I want to give back to this community. Again, I think I won the lottery being here and living here. I'll tell you one quick story that they're going to buzz me on before I'm through, but I've never told this story in public, so I'm going to try to tell you as much of it as I can. Back when I was on the city council, it was one of the worst recessions that we've ever had in Gordon County. I know it's the worst one probably I'll ever see in my lifetime. At that time, we asked the city employees, you know, to not take any pay raises. If anyone left the employee of the city, you couldn't hire them back. And they did a wonderful job of running the city during that time. And I thought they were giving up a lot, and I thought it's time for me to give back a little bit as well. And at that time, I said, the only thing I know I can do is that I will not get them.
You can finish.
I will not have them pay for my travel and stuff to go to meetings and things like that. So in the year 2011, I think it was, there was actually zero travel expense, $272 the next year. What I'm trying to tell you by saying that is I believe in giving back, and that's why I'm running. And I'd ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Mr. Barton.
Thank you. It's been an honor to serve for 8 years. And we have 6 exits now in our community. No matter what happens, we're going to have growth. And we do have the infrastructure. I mean, we have the airport, and it's about to expand, and it's going to be a great thing. So no matter what happens, it's going to grow. And I think that the way I see the vision of Calhoun, I can make it grow the way that I think the majority of the people want it to grow. And so we're set up. We have great people who work for us, and they're working hard to make sure that we're in the right direction. They do it 7 days a week for us. I mean, we're serving, twice a month. We have a couple of meetings, and we have emails and stuff. But I'm just the growth that we have. I'm going to try to still keep your taxes low and make more exciting things happen in Calhoun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Those are your candidates for City of Calhoun City Council Post 3. Let's give them a hand. We will move on now to City of Calhoun City Council Post number 4. And the 2 candidates we have with us tonight are Alvin Long and Ed Moyer. And I want to make sure I wrote this down right. Mr. Moyer is to go first, I believe. Yes, so, Mr. Moyer, if you'll begin with your opening statement. You've got a minute.
Good evening. I'm Ed Moyer. I'm running for Calhoun City Council, post number 4. My wife, Lori, and I are residents of Calhoun. After being gone for 12 years, we've been back now 18 months, and I'm proud to say that I chose to move back to Calhoun as my retirement community. It's a great place to be from and a great place to live and be in. Both of our children are graduates of Calhoun High School. A little bit about me: I've worked in the healthcare profession all of my work life. I'm a registered nurse and a healthcare executive with a master's degree in business administration. I served as a chief clinical officer and a chief operating officer for HCA, which owns Redmond Regional in Rome, Adventist Health Systems, Gordon Hospital here in Calhoun, and a joint venture with Adventist Health Systems and Emory University in Atlanta. I have served the Calhoun community as a board member and chairman for the Calhoun City Schools for 7.5 years. Past president of United Way and past president of Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. Mr. Long?
Well, if you failed to see any of my signs around town, I'm Alvin Long, and I've wanted to be on the city council all my life since I was in high school. I served the people in some form or capacity for the last 20-some-odd years as an elected official. When I was 14 years old, I was working with Tom David in the Gordon County Civil Defense. I've served on 15 different boards and chamber committees. I've served on the Board of Health, the Gordon County Board of Commissioners, the Library Board, presently on the City School Board. No one had to ask me to run. I run because I want to make this a better place, and I want to leave it a little better than I found it. I would not pick any other place in this country to raise my children or my grandchildren. And I ask you to give me that chance. I ask you to vote for me, Alvin Long, City Council, Post 4.
Thank you, gentlemen. First question for you guys, and we'll begin with Mr. Moyer. Could you please tell us what your position is concerning the ballot question in the city of Calhoun on this November's ballot involving term limits for elected city officials? If you oppose it, why? If you support it, what do you think the specifics of the limits should be?
I come from an area, the city of Marietta, which had voted on those term limits, and looking at the same issue here. I believe that we should look at those term limits. I think it does. Not sure that the way that it's written is probably the best. It's 3 terms as a city council, 2 as a mayor. That may be a little backwards. You know, for mayor, I look at the mayor as being the CEO for our organization, for our city that way, and there's certainly a lot of input and issues and things that person is going to know. And to get to that point in 2 terms, I'm not sure that may be adequate to get someone else ready to go into that role. So I think we need to look at that as a group. Look at the issues, have that discussion. What would benefit the city of Calhoun?
Okay, Mr. Long, same question.
I don't agree with the term limits as it's put forth on the ballot. I think the citizens of this town are smart enough to know when you've when they've had enough. I've run 4 different campaigns here. And when the citizens think, again, that you've been there long enough, they'll send you home. Calhoun is a different place. And I mean that what I mean by that is to say that you can see me in Walmart, you can see me at church, you can see me on the street, my name and phone number's in the book. If you're doing your job and you're doing what the citizens and the voters want, then they ought to put you there and they ought to take you out. But I will say that whatever the citizens vote on, as a member of this council, if I'm lucky enough to be there, that I will look at what the voters want and look at sending whatever we need to down to the state capitol.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Mr. Long, you'll be the first to handle the second question here. And again, this is one that comes from our students and has been distilled a bit. Do you believe that local government should be in the utility business? If so, what utilities should be provided? Just the water, sewer, and electric that are available now, or other items such as internet, television, and whatnot? If you do not believe that the city should be in the utility business, why do you oppose it?
Oh my gosh, Jesse. I'd rather you wrote the questions. I think the best thing that ever happened to the city of Calhoun that we're in the utility business. The water, sewer. If we can get into other areas like the internet that we're already there, those things offer a tremendous advantage when we're talking to industry about coming into Calhoun. We've got the best water source out there available, and I'm going to tell you, I sat on the developmental authority. I was there for a number of years, 8 years, And I can tell you that when the industry wants to come to Gordon County, they're looking at what our electric rates, our water, our natural resources, what we can offer them. They're looking at our recreation, our hospital, our schools. So most definitely, whatever the city of Calhoun can get into, then I would back it 100%.
Mr. Moyer, same question for you.
Yes, sir. And like Alvin, I would agree. I think the utilities business for our city is something that certainly is something we need to be in the business doing. You look at bringing those folks into our community as we grow. Gordon County, Calhoun sits in the middle between Atlanta and Chattanooga. We're not Atlanta, we're not Chattanooga, but we're the unattached county or area here. We have the potential of moving people in. If you look at the foresight of what the people on the council have done in prior years, looking at the water, looking at sewage, we have capacity for that, for growth in our city. And so I think by continuing that certainly is a way to be able to bring that business in. Certainly as you look at in education, our health care, all of those are positives. And when you add it up, we're a great city here.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. All right. This one is the softball that everybody knows is coming. What's your position concerning the SPLOST on this November's ballot? If you oppose it, what ways would you propose to fund the projects listed on the SPLOST? If you support the SPLOST, do you ever foresee a time when our local government would not seek to renew the SPLOST?
Yes, I do support the SPLOST. In fact, my wife and I were chair of the first SPLOST that was approved here for education. For that, and it did pass, and proud to see that and look at where that money has gone in our educational system. You look at the items that are on our SPLOST for this year, looking at road improvements, you look at what is there for improvements with fire and police, those things that are needed for our city that way. We let other folks, again, being where we're located off of 75 and the traffic through Gordon County and Calhoun, it's the perfect place to do that, that additional penny tax that's there. Certainly with the outlet mall, with the Flying J, those different areas where those tax dollars come in, it can only help our city that way. Can we cut taxes with that? I don't know. It certainly, as you look right now, you know, I believe we have make sure that people are employed, that we have jobs for folks here that are able to look at those tax dollars. We certainly don't want those taxes to go up, but this is a way that we can share with everyone that joins us here in Calhoun to help pay for those services that we want here.
Mr. Long?
I have been an elected official since 1999, and I have worked on the past three SPLOST that have passed, 1E and 2 from the county. I'm going to tell you that if we don't pass these type of SPLOST, the things that the city needs will not get done unless the property owner, the taxpayer, pays for them. There's $1.9 million in this next SPLOST for public safety. There's $3.3 million in there for recreation, $6.3 million for public works, another $1 million or so for utilities. And even that's not enough. There are other things that have to be done, but so I would continue the SPLOST if given the opportunity. It moves our city forward, it moves our county forward, and it does it at not the total expense of our property tax owner. Almost 40% of that tax comes off the interstate. So anytime we can have somebody from out of town pay for our new police station, then I'm all for it.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Mr. Long, this will be the last question for the two of you, and you will go first. And it is one that was almost universal across our young people. They asked, do you think that the position you are running for can help fight the rise of illegal use of drugs in our community, especially opiates?
Certainly. I'm actually working with a case right now at the state level. I think it's something our state's got to look at. I don't know, as a city councilman, as a member of the chamber, drugs don't work. We've certainly got a long ways to go, but this is an epidemic that we've got to address. It's an epidemic that's filling our jails, it's filling our prisons, it's costing our taxpayers, and it's certainly got to be addressed. Now, as far as the city council goes, what can we do? We can make sure our police department, our public safety officials have the equipment that they need, that we back them 100%. I've said it before, I'll say it again, we must take care of the people that take care of us. And it's been my thought throughout this campaign. And we need to make sure that our people are educated. But as far as a city council member, working with our state officials and our local judges and our drug courts, that's probably going to be our limitation.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Mr. Moyer?
Yes, sir. I'd like to say that city council could be that person could fix it all, but I think it takes a community as a whole to be able to work with our folks out here. Certainly the police department, our healthcare industry, looking at the hospital. There are partnerships that we have to take to put that information out there. It happens every day, and if you spend a Friday or Saturday night in the emergency room at Gordon or any of the hospitals, you'll see where those drug problems are a problem out there. And we need to look at that as a whole. We need to educate our community. We need to make sure that people know the effects of what these drugs will do, and then work with them on getting, cleaning it up and getting these folks off of drugs. But I think it takes a community as a whole to be able to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. We'll go now to closing statements. And Mr. Moyer, if you would.
Yes, sir. In closing, I hope that you see that I'm a candidate, that I'm your candidate for City Council Post 4. I feel with my education, my work background, and prior community activities that I can represent Calhoun. As a City Council member, I hope to work as a cohesive team member of the council, supporting this community and its citizens with responsive leadership and business perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. Mr. Long?
I just want to close by thanking everyone that came out tonight, and of course the chamber. I want to also thank my wife is here. I appreciate her. She's been a tremendous part of my life for 41 years. She makes it possible for me to run and to serve the people, and as well as my family. One interesting fact, my oldest granddaughter is here tonight. She will turn 18, and she better vote for me November the 4th. I don't know that I've asked her, but I'm certainly thinking that she will. I've been a member of this community all my life, and all I've ever wanted to do is serve. I've served it as a zoning chairman. I've served it as a county commissioner. I've served it in the historical preservation committees, the library boards, the hospital, and I want to continue to serve. I want to be that person that you call. My number's in the book. I've never taken it out after 20 years, and I'm always available. I want your vote and your support for unity, purpose, and progress for the City of Calhoun.
Thank you. Those are our candidates for City of Calhoun City Council Post 4. Let's give them a... Before we change municipalities, I just wanted to recognize some folks right quick that are here, and this is typically their meeting night and place, but one of the ways you can be involved, these races are nonpartisan. But other races throughout our county and state and our country are partisan races, and you can get involved with our local political parties. Our local Republican Party was to meet here tonight, but they have allowed us to meet here in this place. And Mr. Ken Herron is here with the local party, and I'm so sorry, Kathleen. If you could just, when does the party meet?
Second Thursday of each month, next meeting November 9th.
Second Thursday of each month in this place, right? And yeah, both parties have presences on the web and all, and certainly like to thank them for their work. We'll move over now to the town of Resaca and Mr. Randy Barron, who is a candidate for Town Council post number 3. And Mr. Barron, if you'll give us an opening statement of a minute.
Okay. Thank you, and it's great to be here with you, and I'll try not to be intimidated by all these great guys up here. This is my first time to run for any office. My name is Randy Barron. I'm running for the Resaca City Council, post 3. I'm married to lovely Charlotte Barron, and we have 5 children and 7 grandchildren, amazing grandchildren. We own and manage rental properties in Resaca and Calhoun, and apartments and laundry in Dalton. I've worked with the public for over 35 years of my life, serving as 10 years as pastor. And I don't normally tell people I'm a pastor till I find out, they get them talking to me first. After they know you're a pastor, then they don't say anything. But I served 10 years as a pastor, 3 years at Sherwood Baptist in Albany, Georgia. And I've been a landlord now for 6 years. I've been served on a board with an adoption agency, served in a homeowners association. I'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barron. If you could please, if you could comment on what your vision is for the town of Resaca and the position you're running for in helping to attract business, industry, and tourism in particular to your city, and specifically how would you fund any action taken by local government?
Okay, I'm assuming you're going to ask me the softball question here.
Eventually, yes.
But I think SPLOST does play a big role in funding a small town like Resaca. I think the city of Resaca, from what I can tell, is being a rural community is pretty comfortable the way they are. They don't necessarily want a whole lot of new business and new growth, and so you have to work with what you have. But we do have, between Resaca is evenly split by 75 and Highway 41, so you do have a business district, as it were. And I would greatly encourage growth through attracting businesses to come into that area. It will increase SPLOST dollars. And then with better services, as you've heard the other gentlemen say, then you can attract additional businesses. So I do think that most people in Resaca are open to certainly that area being business minded. So I would like to see that, and I have some other ideas about how to accomplish that.
You've got time if you want to share them with us.
Well, okay. And this is where I don't have a lot of experience. This is my first time to run for office, so I don't have experience about what you can do with the SPLOST dollars. But I think one thing is definitely to recruit businesses, and to be more proactive in going out. And there are tracts of land in the Resaca area that are close to the interstate that would not upset the status quo. We could see if any of those individuals are amenable to maybe selling that land to a company, bringing in a business or two. And like one of the candidates said, you bring in a small business or you bring in a medium-sized business, and then the support industry that comes with that can create additional jobs and additional revenue. So I think it's a win-win for folks who do like the rural life and yet want to see some proactive business development.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If you could please address the question that I posed to Mr. Moyer and Mr. Long concerning the use of illegal drugs. Do you think there's anything that you in your position, either officially or unofficially, can do to help fight the rise of illegal drug use and especially the crisis involving opiates?
Right, and that's certainly been in the news. That's a big issue with the border security, as I'm sure people are aware, and it's been a huge problem in New Hampshire. Many states have a tremendous opioid addiction problem. So I know that Interstate 75 is a major funnel for drug trafficking, and I think that working with the state law enforcement to make sure that this is not a trafficking stop along, and we do see a lot of arrests being made along the interstate. But I think deeper than that, and that's probably the main reason why I'm even entertaining, for lack of a better word, becoming a city council member would be, I'm concerned about the moral decline in our country in general, with our youth in particular. And I've thought about this, the last several days, wondering specifically how I would address a question like this. And I think one thing a council person can do is set the tone that we as a council, we as a community, stand united. We may not always agree on a lot of issues, but when it comes to moral issues, particularly our youth, I think we stand united, that we're concerned about their future. I think we can set an example in how we conduct ourselves on the city council to show that that morality is, that's all we have. That's all we have. And I think we can also work with local churches. And I think more efforts can be made to go into Gordon Central, since I would represent Central. But we can make efforts to do drug awareness and counseling. Have pastors in local churches, volunteer to do addiction counseling and other forms of drug counseling.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Now, of course, the softball we spoke of. What is your position concerning November's SPLOST? And if you oppose it, how would you propose to fund the projects listed on the SPLOST? If you're in favor of it, would you ever foresee a time when local government would not seek to renew the SPLOST and basically lower the sales tax rate?
Okay. Well, I'll give the basic, the non-politician answer would be, I would hope so. There'd be a time when you could do away with SPLOST. And after you hear all the gasp and people pass out. But we've come a long way in the way that SPLOST dollars have been used. I'm from Houston, Texas, and we're a very anti-tax environment in Texas, so SPLOST was seen as public enemy number one. But when you see what can be done through SPLOST dollars, it makes perfect sense. And most people who favor a flat tax, they do so because it's a more, you can go to a more ad valorem tax structure, and it's exactly what SPLOST is. So it makes sense when you have, especially for Resaca, we are the Flying J, we are the truck stops of America. So we've certainly benefit from SPLOST, and there's no cost to us. So speaking as a politician, then yes, SPLOST makes perfect sense, and I think the citizens of Resaca are willing to put up with that small inconvenience for quite a large tax revenue to the city, and we're able to fund the things that we want to see done. And I think we'll get to the development in just a bit. But we have the battlefield there. We have a lot of things that can be developed around Resaca. We already have parks, and so SPLOST dollars will only help improve what exists there. We need road improvement along 136. It's dangerous. I see people walking along there all the time. So there are things, additional things that need to be done with SPLOST dollars. So I would definitely support it.
And I did save this one specifically for the folks from Resaca because it was posed by a student who lives in Resaca. And the question was, what would you plan to do to make it so that I would want to live and raise my family in Resaca?
Well, I'm married to Charlotte, and her boys were raised in Resaca, and they have chosen to stay close by. And in fact, one of our sons is going to move on our property. We own 33 acres, and so they are going to move. And he was just telling me last night that he missed seeing the stars. Even in Calhoun, apparently there's more light at night. In Calhoun, you can't see the stars like you can in Resaca. So there, but that's not the only reason that you'd want to live in Resaca. There are certainly things that we can do to improve the city, and I would like to see more maybe restaurants, things that we already have things to do. They're mostly outdoor type activities. So I guess if you're not an outdoor type person, then you might not enjoy life in Resaca. But I think to bring in businesses that would offer a career choice, perhaps, would be one reason why someone would want to stay in Resaca. There's certainly a lot of good businesses in Calhoun, and we're in Gordon County. And so I almost would defer to some of the gentlemen who've spoken tonight, because we really depend on Calhoun, I think, to be a strong source of employment. But there's great careers available in the city of Calhoun already. But to live in Resaca, I mean, I've never lived in a city less than 200,000 people, and I've spent the majority of my life in metropolitan areas, including Atlanta, Houston, Orlando, and I can tell you that I love Resaca. Love the sound of gunfire in the morning. I'm all right with that. And Resaca's just a great place to live. I think we need to do more things to have a better community sense, an idea of who we are as Resacaites. But we do things, and we're having the fall festival, yes, and so there are other things that we can do to improve life in Resaca. But I think it's a great place to live, and I'm proud to be a Resaca citizen. Hopefully, I can serve on the city council.
All right. Well, that's your 4 questions. If you would, you've got a minute then to wrap it up for us. Okay. And I hope that satisfied the person who's out there watching on YouTube. I really, but I'll give my number at the end of this if I didn't. But let me pick up where I left off. My primary reason for running for the council is that I've always loved to serve people. As a pastor, I guess everything I've done has really involved working with people. I enjoy getting involved with people. Just 2 days ago, I intervened with one of our tenants in a situation, and my counseling skills really helped with that. Out-of-state boy who is having some drug issues, and there I was, right there. You could say, well, that was coincidence. Well, maybe so. But I feel like that my life is on a path. It's on a chart. And if serving on the city council would be the next step in that, then I'm more than glad to step into that. I want to help Resaca keep its rural feel while looking forward to a bright and prosperous future. And if anyone's from Resaca, I'd love your vote on November 7th. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barron. And that concludes our candidates for City of Resaca City Council post number 3, and all of our candidates for tonight.
On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and our staff, we again extend our appreciation to the candidates for being here, but to each of you for being a concerned citizen and joining us this evening for the forum. A couple of dates I would call to your attention. The election will be on Tuesday, November the 7th. Polls will open at 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Early voting will begin on Monday and will run through November the 3rd. There's information at the back of the room. Also, if you on the back of your agenda of tonight's event, you will see important dates. So I would say take that with you, put it on your refrigerator. Be mindful ever that your involvement matters to our community and to the families that live here. We thank you for your time, your attention, and your devotion to this community. With that, we'll say good evening.
Thank y'all. Do what?
Wow, you guys. Intimidated to be around you guys.
I may move to Recycle.